Thank you so much for attending the video hug. To this quarter, we're going to be presenting video production. If you're not familiar or if this is your first hug that you've attended, we typically go through each quarter. We do a hug. It's about an hour long presentation, everything video marketing related. So, typically in the first quarter, we're going to go over pre production and video concepts, things like that. Now that we're into Q2, we're going to go over video production. So, everything that you should be thinking of when you're hitting record behind the camera, right? Shooting tips, how to get started, things to consider. So, let's just go ahead and get into the presentation here. If this is your first hug, welcome. My name's Aaron Oberdick. I'm the video marketing manager here at Nextany. If this isn't your first hug, you've probably seen us before. I'll go ahead and let Corey introduce himself there.
Yeah, and I'm Corey Christian. I am our multimedia marketer here at Nextany.
Yeah, so Corey and I run all of these events between video hugs, video marketing office hours, video boot camps, and we'll talk a little bit more about all that stuff here in a second. Quick agenda, what we're going to talk about today, right? Choosing the right video for your needs. So we're just going to touch a little bit on pre-production to kind of do a little reminder about that Q1 hug we talked about. Then we're going to go into some gear optimization specifically. We're going to talk about video cameras, entry level and next steps. And so that way you can kind of gauge and decide what camera would be best for you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about audio devices, microphones, things like that. So you can kind of pair a microphone with your camera, lighting equipment as well, and techniques with lighting, and then framing your video. We like to kind of say the four pillars of video, right? Video, audio, lighting, and framing. So that's kind of the majority of what we'll be discussing in this hug. We also have production tips, so things you should be considering while recording, and then wrap up and Q&A if you guys have any questions. So I do want to say throughout this presentation, if you guys have questions, please let us know in the chat. If it's on topic or on discussion, we'll definitely answer it at that moment. If it's not, don't worry, we'll wait till the end and we'll answer it during the Q&A. Now, just some quick cleanup here. Of course, we have the HubSpot Community Video Marketing Study Group. So if you guys are not familiar with this, basically it is a forum group, HubSpot oriented, where you can go and you can ask anything video related. If you have video marketing questions, definitely jump in, talk to the community. You have a lot of like-minded people that are members here, so you're probably going to get some really good answers. Of course, Corey and I are also popping in to the community as well, answering some of your questions. And then there's official HubSpot people popping in through as well. So really good place to ask questions if it's video related, video marketing specifically. But of course, it's not limited to just that. You can ask video production questions, video technical questions as well, and you'll probably get your answer there. So again, great opportunity to just kind of enhance your knowledge in video by asking questions and learning through others people questions in this community. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be boot camp. So, if you guys are unfamiliar with boot camp, what it is a 6 week course kind of aimed and designed to walk you through the steps to get comfortable being on camera and producing videos in a finalized format. So, in a sense, we walk you week by week. You get homework assignments, and we start at the very top, right? We talk about why video, we go through statistics and analysis on what marketing companies are utilizing video in their strategies and how effective it can be. Then we move on to different video concepts and we walk you through the flywheel and how we can kind of compare and contrast what videos we want to create in conjunction with the HubSpot flywheel. Then we go through video pre-production, production, and post-production in a kind of that 3 week course there. And then we wrap it up with promotion analysis and just kind of looking at all of our video statistics and optimizing those videos with those statistics. So it's very hands-on. It's very detailed in that sense that you'll participate in a weekly format. So if this sounds really interesting to you, definitely check out the HubSpot page. And I know I just introduced it as an entirely 6 week hands-on course, but I'm pretty sure actually the format's going to be shifting to 2 days, 2 hours, a Tuesday and a Thursday moving forward. So I know I just pitched it like that. I think we've been doing it for like 2 years like that. So I'm trying to readjust my brain here. But if you want all of that in a very expedited fashion in 2 days, definitely check out Bootcamp and register for our next one. If you have more questions about Bootcamp as well, definitely ask us in the chat and Corey will fill you in with more information there. All right. Another thing I want to talk about is going to be World Certification Week. So this is going to be between May 15th and 19th. So if you're, a little bit behind on any certifications through HubSpot, or you just want to get certified in something new with HubSpot, this would be a great opportunity to do so because HubSpot donates for every certification that gets passed. So if this is interesting to you, definitely go check out the World Certification Week. You can see some statistics there. Over $100,000 donated within the last 3 years just through this program, and 95 plus countries with awarded certifications, and almost 500,000 active certified users. So really big numbers. Really cool to see this movement continue. I remember 3 years ago when this was a thing, just getting the ball rolling. So to see it really become a successful campaign is really awesome. And we highly encourage you getting either recertified or certified in something new between May 15th and May 19th. And the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the bulk of the presentation here, the 2023 State of Marketing report just dropped through HubSpot. Um, it was in conjunction with Litmus, Rock Content, and Wistia. So these four companies kind of conjunction together and created this report. There's a lot of things they go over. They go over the biggest changes in video marketing in 2023, the best video trends from Wistia, emerging marketing trends and plans for 2023. There's email marketing trends from Litmus, 2023 video marketing benchmarks. You have a lot of leaders weighing in, particularly on the future marketing predictions, social media marketing trends, influencer trends, right? It's got everything in there. So if you're really trying to start with video, this is a great opportunity to kind of start at the top, right? This is going to get you into understanding what companies in the world are using video, why they're using video, why it's effective for them. And hopefully, with these stories, with these success stories, you'll be able to convince, let's say, your boss or someone that is just having that little bit of trouble getting over the edge to start with video. This will kind of get them over that hump. So, definitely check out the State of Marketing report. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the bulk of the content for this quarter. And like I said, this is going to be about video production, but I do want to start it off with a little bit of pre-production work, just take it one step back, right? So before you actually hit record, you're probably thinking, okay, I need to come up with a video concept. What are we recording, right? Is it going to be an email signature? Is it going to be a homepage video? Is it a sales FAQ? There's a lot of different videos you can create. And so that's where we really take the approach of looking at the HubSpot flywheel or even the funnel, right? And you can see at the top of the funnel, for example, it's that awareness stage. You're really trying to just attract people to your brand, your product, your service. And so we can see creating educational videos, creating branding videos, really, that's just gauging the interest of your viewers. Then once you kind of get people moving along, right, you're driving that interest. That's where product videos and explainer videos are going to be really, really handy, and just driving the information to the viewer. Then they're going to have all that knowledge and information on your product, service, or brand. And that's where they come to that decision making process. And you can see video testimonials is kind of the best idea because they're not hearing the information from you. They're now hearing information from a case study or a testimonial from someone that's used your product, your service, or took advantage of your brand in some capacity and they liked it, right? So now they're telling their story and their success story on video, and that really fortifies the trust, right? And so once they take that action, how do we retain them as a customer and keep them with our brand and continue that so we create them as a micro audience? That's where we create the training videos, the FAQ videos, right? So there's a lot of different videos that you can create throughout the entire process of a customer starting at the top with your brand all the way through executing, maybe purchasing something, right? And following through and staying loyal to your brand. And so that's really what we want to make sure that we talk about because the biggest question Corey and I always get asked from people starting videos, what video do I create first? And so we really like to talk a little bit about pre-production and all of these because we really want to kind of spark that interest and get you kind of thinking about where am I having my biggest friction in my flywheel and what video can I create right now to start alleviating that. So what type of video are you going to be creating? If you're here viewing, definitely let us know in the chat what video you're going to start creating first. Now, I want to get into gear and gear optimization and just talk about cameras, again, microphones, lighting, that whole 9 yards, to kind of show you where you should start and then where you should kind of achieve to be. So, first things first, right? Entry level upgrades. And before we even get to a webcam, I want to talk about your cell phone, because so many people join our boot camps, join our office hours, right? And they're always asking, cool, like, all right, I landed on a homepage video. I'm going to create a homepage video, but my head talking isn't good enough. I need to go out and capture footage that's kind of associated to what I'm talking about, right? That's called B roll. And to capture B roll, you need a video camera, not just a webcam, right? It'd be kind of weird if you're running around trying to shoot your video with like your laptop and webcam, right? So your cell phone is going to be the most optimal camera you can utilize. A lot of people start saying, I need to spend $1,000 on a camera. If you haven't created a video, do not do that. Take advantage of what you already have and what you can utilize. And everyone, not most people have a cell phone, right? So you're going to find most phones nowadays also shoot 4K. They're pretty good quality. So practice with that, learn with that, put the all of that footage on your computer, play around with it, and just get an understanding of really how video works as an overarching theme. Then you can start to explore options to upgrade. Now, talking about cell phone, right? That's typically going out in the field and capturing what we just called B-roll. But let's say you're just a sales guy, you're just trying to do a lot of webcam videos, you're trying to pump out quantities of videos to people, right? And that's what we're looking at on this slide. A Logitech Brio webcam is a much higher quality webcam than what you're going to find in typical built-in computers. It just lets a little bit more light in. That sensor is typically just a touch bigger, like one step up, and so you're able to kind of let light flood in a little bit better, and you're just going to see the overall quality increased there. I'm going to go ahead and ask Corey now. Corey, do you have any input on webcams, like why you would want to upgrade to something like this over just your built-in?
Sure. I mean, some of the more recent Apple computers, of course, definitely have very good webcams. But in general, the sensor that is on most computers, even like mine, for example, is a few years old at this point, and it's not
Mhm.
the best quality, right? So if I were to want to improve that, the easiest way for me to do that is to purchase something like a Logitech, like one of these, kind of just not super expensive. A lot of them are maybe 200 bucks or so for like, a really, really nice one, like a 4K, like really high quality webcam. And that would instantly jump up, my image and the overall quality of what I was able to record. If, for example, maybe the webcam is dark or something, or who knows, there are still computers that are made without them, right? So
Yeah.
um, certainly it's a really good option if maybe the one that you have on your machine is lacking. Like you don't need to go buy a new computer just to be able to shoot webcam videos. It's cheaper to get one of these guys. So
For sure.
just kind of an
Absolutely.
option to remember.
Yep, and I see Jennifer's asking which Logitech do we recommend. I believe the Brio is the best one. Corey, I'm sure you can probably pull up a specific model and give her a link there.
Yeah, I'll pull a link up right now to the one that we actually purchased for Gabriel that he uses for all of his videos.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this moving, and we're going to talk about what you would jump into right after these steps. So you've created or you've come up with a concept for a video, right? You went out, you practiced, you have your cell phone footage. You're starting to get the idea of how videos are created, right? Going out, capturing that B-roll that's associated to what you're discussing. And you might shoot all of your talking points, all your headshots here with your webcam, and then go and coincide and pair that with cell phone footage. Now, at the end of the day, you are going to find cell phone footage is a bit limited in what it can handle, right? It's not going to handle low light opportunities that well. It's not going to make anything look too cinematic unless you have perfect optimal conditions in set scenarios. So that's where you would kind of jump to one of these marketing level cameras, right? If you're really just saying this footage is just not good enough for me anymore, it's not cinematic enough, it just doesn't have that overall look and feel. And that's where you would look at something like this. So these cameras, they're mirrorless cameras and they're interchangeable lenses. So you're able to kind of get a little bit more out of everything and just customize it all to get really and cater it to the specific look you're trying to achieve. Um, Of course, you can put a prime lens on there. You can get a nice shallow depth of field. You can get zoom lenses and just get a wide range of creativity on what shots you want to make. So you have a lot of options, and these guys also range in price points. The specific ones on the screen, I think they float anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000, maybe 2,500 bucks. But of course, you can take it a step down from here. You can kind of get that entry level mirrorless camera, and they float around 500 to $800. So in terms of upgrading to something where you can go full manual control, you can control your aperture, you can control your ISO, things like that. That's really what you're looking to take that next jump and start understanding the technicalities of video and not just video marketing, right? It's kind of taking several different facets of video and then combining them together with these cameras. So definitely better utilized. And the one on the left hand side, that A7, I think it's a actually, I can't even see the picture. It's too small. We have
A7 III.
we got an A7. We have two A7 threes at Nextiny. That's the Sony on the left hand side. We also have a Sony FS3, which is kind of the next jump up, and you can definitely see the image quality. But at the end of the day, if you're not a videographer and you're a video marketer and you're just trying to push kind of that quality to the next step, an A7 III, the Canon R6 is an awesome camera as well. And then of course the Panasonic GH6 is like a super awesome camera. So these are
Oh
really
yeah.
great. Yeah, these are really great options. Corey, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, the one thing I will say is like you mentioned, the image quality even in our the FX3 is an upgrade over the A7 III. Like we can notice it in adverse shooting conditions. So if a background is really hot and the subject is in the shade or something like that, like you will notice those differences more. If, however, you are lighting a scene, you have more control of it. Maybe you're, in your office or your studio and you're able to kind of control things a bit more. There's certainly a level of, I guess, diminishing returns, right? Where honestly, a lot of these options will probably look very similar if they're all in a
Mhm.
very controlled, very nice lighting environment. So it really comes down to like, yes, these better quality ones may be able to help you if you end up shooting somewhere less than ideal, but you'll be able to get a good image certainly out of any of these options these days. Like most cameras have at least 1080p. A lot of them are shooting in 4K now. Like
Mhm.
you've got plenty of great options out there. Like Aaron said, I mean, even like the A5000s and 6000s, like you can get those with lenses for like under $1,000. Like
Yeah.
there's some really good options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so jumping over to some sound devices, right? Microphones, audio stuff. And that's where we're looking at three different types of microphones, right? We need to take a step back and understand what types of microphones are available to us before we go and pick and choose which one is going to be the best situation. So, the first one, you're not really going to see out in the field at all. This is going to be very controlled. You're going to see it in a studio. I'm going to lightfully lift my mic up here. Boom. So that's what we're using, right? One of these dynamic or condenser microphones. Some people call them studio microphones as well. And it's because they're, again, used primarily in very controlled environments. You're not going to stick this on top of a camera and run out. They're hypersensitive in that sense. They have omnidirectional patterns, or you can change their patterns. I think mine's very directional right now. So if I turned it 180 degrees, I would be very muffled. But they pick up just your frequencies very well. And so if you took it out in the field, it would kind of pick up way too much, right? So that's why you're looking at this in a studio. Now, if we shift over to the middle, that's a lavalier or a lapel microphone. The one with the wire, of course, you've probably seen those. They clip right on t-shirts. If you've ever watched interview videos, you probably have seen one of these mics. Basically, the idea is it attaches very close to the top of the chest and the neck area, and it picks up a lot of the bass from your voice as well. So it kind of picks up that full frequency of your voice, and it's really nice. Um, the one on the left in the box, that is a wireless lavalier microphone. So basically, what that is doing is it's sending a transmission signal from the receiver, sending it to the transmitter, and now you're recording it wirelessly. It's we actually just picked one of these up, and it's the most amazing thing in the entire world. So if you're listening right now, I would suggest if you can get a wireless lav. And then last, we have shotguns and boom microphones. These are the microphones that you've probably seen on movie sets, behind the scenes footage. You see that guy, he's got his arms up in the air and he's holding that big long pole right over top of the people talking in a movie scene. That is a shotgun. So the idea there is it's very directional, and he's kind of aiming it to the speaking people. So you're kind of drowning out, let's say, all the sounds around you. Let's say you're recording in a city, right? And you got a lot of car sounds and just general noise, kind of drowns a lot of that out by picking it up very directionally. Corey, you want to talk a little bit about like the little jagged edges there on the side? I know you know a lot about that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you can think of those as like the baffling on it. It's similar. So the premise is basically that the length of that capsule, right, it determines how telephoto more or less your lens is. So it's very much like a zoom lens. The longer that this microphone becomes, right, the tighter and tighter and tighter the angle, the pickup pattern becomes on it. So the kind of really teeny tiny short ones are going to have a very wide pickup pattern still. So that's kind of good for when you're doing things maybe in rooms or multiple subjects and you have kind of multiple different people talking. Um, the longer that these shotgun microphones get, the more of that off-axis rejection it's getting, so that the less kind of outside noise you're getting and much more focused. um, that becomes difficult when you do have more than one speaker, because now you have to, twist your boom back and forth and kind of switch people as they talk without, rattling the mic, or have multiple microphones perhaps, and then you need to get a mixer, and then, things can kind of start to balloon pretty quickly with audio equipment in that sense.
Yeah,
So, there's a million different ways to kind of handle, I guess, recording audio in a scene, just like there is to shoot video in a scene, right? But I've always thought it's really helpful to think of them just like microphones, right? Or just like camera lenses, right? So those
yeah.
little short ones, very wide pattern; very long ones, you get a really narrow pattern, and that kind of helps you decide, what you're going to be filming and what you'll need for that.
For sure. All right, let's go ahead and move over to microphones. Uh, Talk about some entry level microphones, right? So you can see it's basically a little micro shotgun audio device, and you see that it has a lightning connector. So that is obviously utilized for a phone. Um, of course, at the beginning of the camera section, we talk a lot about using your phone. It's free of charge in terms of a camera. You can pick one of these guys up and complement to your phone. They're going to, I think Amazon link probably 20, $30 on them. And they just significantly increases the quality of your audio, especially if you're just trying to record a voiceover in any capacity, whether you're in a nice controlled sound room or if you're just sitting on a park bench outside. This is going to give you really high quality audio. So picking one of these up for a minimal cost is a really good idea. And then of course we added the wireless lavalier microphone there as well, because those are typically pretty inexpensive, and they also pick up very high quality audio. So two options that we wanted to just give you in that sense. And you'll find that for that low cost, it is a significantly production increase, and it's well worth it. All right, so let's talk about lighting now. And really, we recommend on that basic level two ways to get light. First option is going to be LED lighting, LED panels. These have really become mainstream, I'd say, in the last, what, 8, 10 years or so. Before LED panels were popular, we had to pull out the bulbs and the Fresnel lights and the whole 9 yards, right? It was a lot. And it
The
was
coffee breakers. Yeah.
admittedly, it really turned me off to lighting very quickly when I was in college. Of course, now it's become significantly easier, and for projects that we do in the marketing landscape, and LED panels is what we take advantage of. So they can come battery operated, plug in power, right? So they're versatile. Typically, they also have color settings on them, so you can change from, let's say, a little bit of a warmer tone if you're indoors versus outdoors. That gives you a little bit of a higher Kelvin scale lighting, right? So you're looking to kind of cold or turn down those lights to make it a little bit more bluish. And you can do that with these lights a lot of times. Uh, Also, they have intensity meters on them, right? So you can make them very bright. You can turn them down if you just want a little bit of fill light, things like that. So they're very versatile and they're relatively inexpensive nowadays. You can pick up a kit of big ones for a couple $100, and then you can go and pick up just a small complimentary one if you're looking to just put it on top of your camera for definitely under $100. So we recommend LED lights. If you don't have a budget, that's totally okay, right? If you're shooting indoors, like right now, for example, I don't have any lights on me. I have two big windows right in front of me, and you can see even when I put my hands there, I'm kind of blocking all that light because I just have a lot of natural light coming to flood on me. So the main thing is with lighting, this is going to enhance your production a lot because if you're silhouetted, right? If you're dark, right? If you kind of see how I have shadows on my face, it's a little bit more distracting and you're not as engaged with the actual person speaking. So we highly recommend just trying to get a little bit of light, even if you don't, have any sort of lighting gear. And let's say you don't have any windows, try to use a desk lamp, try to do things like that. Right. And I guess I'm getting ahead of myself because this slide is exactly what we're talking about, right? Use a window if available, but if you don't, use that desk lamp or any sort of light source that you can angle. Um, Another thing I want to talk about is softening light. So if you turn on a lamp and it's just a bulb kind of shining in your face, you might realize that, oh, wow, I'm really overexposed, right? Like my whole body is just pure white and then the background is perfectly exposed. At that point, trying to use a diffuser of some sort, you can get really creative. I've seen DIY projects where people use those clear shower curtains to diffuse light. You can use a white bed sheet, right? That typically will diffuse it as well. You can even deflect stuff. So we use what's called reflectors, especially when we're shooting outdoors. We'll reflect off of some sort of very reflective material, the sunlight, and bounce it onto someone to give them a nice fill light on them. And people do DIY things of this. They'll take a big piece of cardboard and just wrap it in tinfoil, and that's the perfect reflective material to kind of bounce light there. And then also there's color diffusers. So there's what we call gels. You can go and pick up gels for pretty cheap. They're basically just transparent colored sheets that you can stick over top of a light and it just creates that light into that color. So a lot of different options in terms of trying to utilize light when you don't really have any sort of equipment to take advantage of. And then last about lighting here, there's a lot of different lighting techniques, right? And if we're trying to do it very officially, we're going to typically go with a 3 point lighting technique. When Corey and I are out in the field and we're doing interview shoots and we have time to get everything set up, this is typically the optimal setup we will do, right? We'll put the camera in the front, of course, with the subject right in the middle. And on one side, we'll add what's called a key light. That's going to be our first light. That's going to be kind of our concentrated light, and it's going to be hitting someone from the side, not an exact 45-degree angle, more like a 70-degree angle. But what happens is once you turn your key light on, it's going to cause a harsh shadow on the opposite side of the face, right? You're going to create a really nice light on one side, but that shadow. And so you're going to try to alleviate a little bit of that with what's called a fill light, right? And that's where something like the bounce board will come in, something where you can reflect light. We have a really big umbrella for one of our lights. And so we'll stick more of a hyper focused light as the key light. And then the soft or the fill light is going to be that big umbrella light that just fills in on the opposite side. And so it gives it kind of that nice balance on the face. And you'll still see a little bit of shadowing because we want to make sure there's still definition in the face. But you'll find with those two lights, you'll give a really nice lighting effect. And then the third one you want to add is a backlight. And you'll put that just off camera, just to the side there, as you can see in the graph. And what that does is it's really going to pull the subject out from the back. So it's going to essentially add like a halo light around their shoulders, around their neck, and the back of their head. And again, pulling the subject out from the background is the idea with your backlight. So 3 point lighting technique, I like to teach people about this because you don't have that awareness typically at the very beginning. But once you find yourself, keeping inching into video production, you'll find, okay, I need new strategies. I need to constantly be adjusting myself and getting better. And this is the most standardized lighting procedure basically in the industry. So very good information to know. Now, hard versus soft light, right? We have spot versus spread. That's going back to the key light and the fill light. So again, key light is very concentrated, and then your fill light is going to spread out everything evenly. Um, let's say you just have one light. A fill light is typically what you're trying to achieve there, because uh, if you have one light and you turn it into a key, you're just basically putting a giant spotlight on someone, and then it's going to create too many harsh shadows. With a fill light, it'll soften things up. It won't be the perfect lighting, but you'll still find that it's going to alleviate a lot of your harder shadows and just make a more beautiful image overall there. Corey, you can stop me anytime as well. If you have anything to interject?
No, I mean, I think you're right on point. One thing I will say is that kind of
Mhm.
in their by their very nature, LEDs are tend to be much softer light. They do tend to be very flattering, which is very nice. Like
Yeah.
when you're talking about like hard lights, that usually is like a Fresnel light, one of the hot bulbs or
Yeah.
something. And again, like it is a hot bulb. It does get hot. It will physically make you warm, right? LEDs are
Yeah.
nice and cool. They don't get hot. They don't use a lot of electricity, um, and they have that naturally kind of nice, inherently soft light.
Yeah.
There are certainly kinds that have Fresnel lenses and have focusing elements on them in order to allow you to get more of that kind of spotlight feel to them. Certainly, but in general, LEDs are known to have a very kind of just nice, soft, kind of flattering light to them, which is good.
Absolutely. All right. And so we've talked about video, audio, and lighting. And this isn't so much a gear perspective, right? But it's something to definitely be thinking about in conjunction with the three things we just discussed. And framing is just as important as those three things, right? And framing, the first thing you're trying to think about is your background. Now, you want to make sure that your background is clean and there's nothing distracting there. And then, if you can, right? For example, if I was giving guitar lesson videos, this would be a good background because I got a bunch there. For video purposes, it would be a little bit more uh, in the realm of familiarity if I had a bunch of cameras in the back. I don't have $1 million and a ton of cameras, so that's not really feasible for me. But again, if let's say you're hyper focused in one subject and you're creating consistent content about something, then try to add any relevance in the background that is to what you're speaking to, right? And then framing as well, angles are really important. Eye level angle is definitely the most natural angle you really want to achieve here. We talk about this a lot in movies, where if you look down on someone or look up on someone, you're trying to angle that person, whether they're an antagonist, a protagonist, whether the way the audience should be looking at them. So if we're looking like kind of up at someone, it's to try to give a sense of them having a bit of power, or if the angle is looking down on them, it's the opposite, right? It's saying that this person isn't as strong as, let's say, the other person in the scene that we're looking up at. And that's on the cinema level. But when we're talking about a marketing perspective, right, you don't want to be like angled super low down where you just see the eyebrows and a little bit of your eyeballs. And then vice versa, you don't want to be looking up at someone straight into their nostrils. So eye level is going to be the optimal or angle in that sense. And then distance, that's going to be a little bit more catered to the camera and the lens you're utilizing. But if you're using, let's say, a standard 50 millimeter lens, 40 millimeter lens, whatever it may be, 6 to 10 feet, you'll find is kind of that sweet spot of where you want to be when recording. So just some things to take in consideration when framing. And then to kind of wrap up those four things into one, I want to talk about our remote video studio. And so what this basically is kind of an all-in-one situation. I think we have a link to one of our blogs on this, but basically what it is an all-in-one built setup where you can go to this blog, follow along, buy the links that you're looking for. I think all in all, it's somewhere around $1,200. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere in that realm. And it gets you a camera, it gets you a microphone, it gets you a light, and you're able to kind of build it all in one to where you could just plug this baby in USB, click go, and now you're utilizing a nice mirrorless camera as your webcam. You can get that nice shallow depth of field and just have a little bit more cinematic look when recording here. And then you have the ability to take the camera directly off of this unit, go out into the field and record all your B-roll, right? And then at that point, come home, do some post-production work, and you have a finalized video. So The remote video studio is just a really like it says there, right? Convenient, modular, and cost-effective way to create videos. All right. And since this is about video production, let's talk a little bit about shooting tips, production tips, what you should be thinking about when recording, right? And first things first, remember all the pre production work. So, if you were here in Q1 for our video hug, we talked for an hour about video production. We talked about concepts and we talked about creating a brief, an outline, and everything you should be doing before you hit record. So, remember all of that pre production work that you're doing when you're hitting record, because the moment you forget all about that, then you're losing all of your foundation, right, to your video. And you want to make sure that you're kind of achieving what you are trying to set out to record. Then don't be afraid to mess up, right? That's what editing is for. You can always stop and restart if needed. Typically, people get nervous on camera naturally. It always happens. So a couple takes, it'll usually take a couple takes, right? But if you find yourself really, really struggling, it's okay. Take a breath, take a step away. We've all been there, in front of the camera, behind the camera, whatever it may be. Don't be afraid to mess up, though. It happens to every single person. So take a deep breath and just keep on continuing there. Then third is focus on the content, not the lens. And it's a lot easier to say than do that, because as soon as you get in front of a lens and you're looking right at it, you forget all that content. It's very easily to do that. So just again, focus on that content. You are the master of your subject, right? Whatever you're speaking to, you should know it eloquently and you should be able to speak on that. And of course, putting a camera will make you feel uncomfortable, but with repetition and practice, you'll find that you'll get more comfortable. So always make sure that you're just focused on what you know and not that lens so much. Another thing to know is body language, right? Always remember to look engaged. That's super important, because how many times have you been at a presentation where the person is super mundane, super boring? Hopefully not this one, right? But it just kind of makes the whole thing lackluster and you get bored. You don't want to like tune in anymore. So body language is really important. Just having that positive body language and trying to, have a little bit of energy and hype people up and just kind of, again, bring the energy, and you'll find that your videos are going to be engaging a lot more. And then last, double down on your good takes. This is so important because I've heard so many stories of people going out, recording, boom, nailed it on one take. They go home, they put their memory card in their computer, and for one reason or another, the footage is corrupt. So that's the last thing you want to find, especially if you have a lot of tangibles involved, right? You got people coming out of town, you got a videographer, if the more things you have attached to it, the harder it becomes to recreate that. So always make sure you double down on your good take. Even if you hit it on the first try, do it again, just in case for any reason there's any hiccup or any issue with that recording. Or even if you think mentally, like, I nailed that, you might have tripped over one single word, and when you go back to the editing and you're editing on your computer, you're going, man, what I would have given to just record that one more time, even though we didn't, right? So always, always, always double down on your good takes. Corey, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I just one of the things when you were talking about body language, I was thinking of not only look engaged, but it always helps to smile, right? Like it really is an infectious thing. Like if people see a smile on your face, they're much more willing to enjoy what they're watching. It sounds better when you're just in a good mood.
Mhm.
And putting a smile on your face just kind of makes you sound like you're in a better mood naturally. It's just a weird thing that your brain does. So something I always try and tell people, like, do it one more time. This time, just remember to smile. Like try and just be friendly.
For sure. And that actually has me thinking about being behind the camera too, right? Because it's when you're in front of the camera, right? You're trying to think of all these things, but it's all of this stuff also applies to when you're behind the camera, coaching or directing someone who's on camera, right? If you're the videographer and you may not have a ton of experience behind the camera, but that's okay, right? Try to encourage that person in front of the camera that they're good at what they do, right? Boost them up, make them happy, make them feel like they know what they're doing. Because if they lose their confidence and you are just silent and you're just looking at them like, I don't know, like, I hope you can do this, they're going to lose total confidence in themselves. So always make sure, as the director or as the camera operator, that you're kind of boosting that person up and just giving them that energy like, hey, man, it's totally okay. Like, you've screwed up, take a deep breath, take a little walk, come back, breathe it off. We're all good, and record it again. And that's very important as well. All right. And so that's, of course, when recording. Now, after recording, just some minor tips, but things I like to talk about. Always save your files to a primary location. So many people will record a video and they're like, great, but it's not time sensitive. So I'm not going to get it to it immediately. I'm not going to edit immediately. Next thing you know, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and then they're like, I don't even remember what footage this is on. I don't know where the memory cards, things like that. Right. So always save. Oh, it's immediately after your video shoot, if you can, get to a computer, drop your files, and save them to a primary location. Also, review your file, right, to confirm it looks and sounds ideal. Like I was just saying, you might feel like you nailed it, but you might have had a hiccup. I always say a hiccup in your lines, but there might have been a plane flying over, right? Or a car driving past that you didn't hear, but your microphone picked it up. So always review and make sure and confirm it looks and sounds exactly what you want. So that way you are confident into importing it into your editing platform and start actually editing. And that's where it goes to import it into your editing platform as well, right? To confirm compatibility, because there's certain cameras out there that shoot in weird formats and weird codecs, and they're not always universal with all editing platforms. That's a little minor detail, but 99% of the time your video footage will be compatible, but still you want to just make sure that it is. So definitely test that out. All right. So that kind of concludes, and kind of it does. It wraps up our presentation for this quarter. So we will now shift into our Q&A. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. In the meantime, I just want to remind everyone again about the HubSpot community. Make sure that this is an awesome place to pop into, ask your questions, right? You remember a question, as soon as I click end this presentation, head on over to the community, ask there, and Corey and I will take care of you as well. So Douglas asks if boot camp spots are still open. Corey, do you know if there's any more this quarter?
I believe so. It does not hurt to go ahead and fill out the application, because if you are not admitted into this session, then you'll be put on the wait list for the next one, and they'll be able to at least let you know when those dates are. But I believe it's still open. I'm double checking right now.
Yeah, I think it is. And I
It
think
begins
it,
July 25th, so we've
yeah,
got some time.
July 25th. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like it's still open. So we are still taking applications for the whole year, I believe, at this point as well. So, like I said, feel free, go ahead and apply at that link that I just posted. You will get someone, most likely Dan Tyre or one of the other HubSpot team, that will reach out to you, and they'll be able to kind of follow up on the next steps from there.
for sure. And I also want to mention that that boot camp is completely free. So um,
Yeah.
we do have in the works an advanced boot camp coming as well. So if this information was surface level to you, and kind of you want something a little bit elevated and higher information, we are working on an advanced boot camp that'll be a little bit more technical. It's going to take the story brand methodology approach into all of the pre-production efforts. We're going to teach you how to create a homepage video, and again, using that story brand methodology, we'll create an outline, we'll create a script. We'll go through the process of teaching everything we possibly can about production in more detail. So that way you have the best understanding and the best ideas to go out and capture your homepage video, everything you need there. And then in this third session, we will talk a lot about editing techniques, things that you can start to utilize for that footage. And again, just create a finalized homepage video to the best of your abilities and how we can help you. And again, that's all wrapped up through the story brand method. So if that sounds interesting to you as well, check, I would say watch it in the study group, right? Well, as soon as we have that wrapped up, we're going to make a big post on the study group announcing that. So take a look out for that as well. All right. Any other questions we have? I'm not seeing anything roll in here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, if you guys have questions, the study group is there 24/7. And thank you so much for attending our quarterly hug. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next one. It's all about post production, so don't miss it. And yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks everyone.